Hey guys, it's Edis again, and welcome back to another video, where in today's video, I decided to look at more r/entitled parents. Let's get into it. Last stand of the infantilizer. Hey y'all, this is your main final update, and it's gonna be a rough one. For all of you who said my mother would try whatever she could contact me after probation when I was over, you were exactly right. In 5 years, she has not let go of whatever crazy has been floating around in her head, and she is still after me with the same incestuous mentality she had before. Here's what happened. My aunt contacted me and said that my mother was looking to hire a private investigator to find me, since no one in the family would tell her where I am. Fortunately, she has been blowing hot air with that because she couldn't afford a PI without losing a chunk of her retirement savings. Barely any relatives talked with her other than just to check in now and then to make sure she was still breathing, and they said that she was generally quiet, antisocial, and remorseful. Turns out she was just biding her time. All that therapy she was supposed to went in the past few years was just for show. She hasn't changed at all. No, I take it back. She's changed, just for the worse. She wanted her probation and my order against her to be expired, and then she went back right to being her old self. She started wearing colorful dresses in public that can only be described as a bad bridesmaid and a Disney princess. She's almost 60 years old and started to only go out and dress up that way. She spent the last 3 years after person slowly collecting the dresses and putting up a broken old woman act that no one ever loves. And anyone who saw her said that those dresses were all she wore once her probation was over. Even around the house as primary attire. It wouldn't surprise me if she spent more money on makeup and hair dye than she did on food every month. To end that, she also went nuts with the keto diet to lose weight this past year, and she admittedly lost a lot. But she cakes her face up in makeup and does her hair in all ways you expect someone in the most extreme denial about their age to be doing. My aunt sent me some photos of her and it was far worse than how she looked on my 21st birthday. Imagine a thin Disney version of a woman from the Drew Carey show who caked her face in makeup every episode. That's the infantilizer. A lot you would say right now to say no contact, but that was easier said than done. My mother may not know where I live anymore, but she knows which state I'm in, and also believe I couldn't be too far from my dad, she was exactly right about. My mother was threatening to go into my state and literally looking everywhere for me. Imagine an old woman dressed full on Disney princess in the middle of a city, passing around photos of me from nearly a decade ago, and asking people where I am and telling whatever she wants about me. I can only imagine the creepy stuff that would happen coming out of her mouth, and I wasn't about to let that happen. I spoke with several family members, and we mutually agreed that the only way my mother wouldn't come running her Disney princess butt to my state to try and follow me would be to speak with her and myself in advance. I know a lot of you are probably mentally screaming, "Don't do it, she's a psycho." Well, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I'm sick of running, and she had no idea what I look like after more than 5 years. Gone was the boy she knew. I'm bigger, more muscular, and have a nice beard. I even learned some boxing from a friend at the gym. He still kicks my butt, but I hold my own. My aunt helped me arrange to speak with my mother over Skype. My mother was apparently so giddy with excitement that she legit sold herself and had to go change before we talk. My aunt was with her on the other hand and was ready to jump if things got too crazy. The video call connected, and when we first saw each other, my mother didn't recognize me at all. She just asked who's the big hairy guy in front of the screen was. And that is until I spoke. The first word that came out of my mouth were sarcastic say, "You were expecting Prince Charming?" Shout out to Shrek for the line. She did recognize my voice right away and started crying. She was whining and asking me what I had done to myself. I said, I grew up. No thanks to her. My aunt played peacekeeper, calling everyone down. My mother had to wipe away a lot of her makeup due to tears that was making it run. And then she wanted me to be excused to go redo it. I said I wasn't waiting for that. We either talk right there and then, or not at all. She wanted to look good for me, and I told her there was nothing else she could do to look good for me, which made her cry some more. "Oh no, my own son doesn't find me attractive. Guess I'll cry about it." Initially, my GF was not visible, but the second my mother started realizing she was there, she began super irate and was about to say something about crazy, but stopped herself before saying anything else. Anything worse was going to happen. "What's she doing there?" I told her, and I said I told her we still live together. I love her, and we may even have one day get married. My mother flopped over onto the couch crying, acting like a sad diva. I told her to stop being a baby and calm down. Even if my GF and I never marry, I still love to grow old with her. My mother actually shouted, "But I'm already old, and I'm alone." I said that meant nothing to me and to calm down, or I was ending this call and we'd never speak to each other again. She took a moment to calm down, and my aunt got her a small keto ice cream from the freezer, which she was started gluttonously devouring. She got a couple brain freezes and kept whining that she's old until she finished all the ice cream. And when she was done, she just threw the ice cream tub away and creepily got calm and said she was ready to talk again. We had some mundane conversation back and forth for a while. She tried to keep me in intimate details about my life, where I work, where I live, all that stuff. And every time I refused to answer, she said I told her she's not allowed to have any of those details. After she stalked me and tried to frame me as a Breaking Bad drug dealer, she cried out how that was 5 years ago and begged to look past it. I said I was incredibly lucky that I was speaking to her even after all of this stuff she's done. To which she went back to crying, and my aunt had to take a few minutes to calm her down. It was petty of us, but my GF and I had a plan to see how crazy my mother really was. I knew that she was barely keeping herself in check. We waited just for the right opportunity, and my GF leaned in and gave me a kiss on the lips. My mother got this very creepy, wide-eyed look on her face and actually said, "I wish you let me kiss you like that too." Everyone went silent. My aunt, who has been playing Peacekeeper, looked like she'd just been slapped in the face. And I said, "That's it. I'm done. You haven't changed at all." My GF hugged me, and I embraced her while saying that she's my one and only. My mother lost all her stuff and started screaming, and that's when I slammed the laptop closed and shut it off. My aunt, on the other hand, had it very rough. My mother started attacking her like a lunatic, and police had to be called. My mother ended up being in a psychic hold because she was attacked the police too. It must have been like a scene from a horror movie or a video game with an old woman in heavily smeared and runny makeup and a Disney princess dress attacking people like a wild animal. The police arrested her after shooting her with pepper spray, and soon enough she has been thrown into a psychic ward. She's already been there for a few months now, and she's been deemed a danger to herself and others. After being locked up, my mother started threatening her self-termination if I didn't come see her. She also demanded to be allowed with her makeup and dresses, which is obviously denied. My aunt was initially the one and only who went to visit her, and which was made my mother's legal power of attorney somehow. I don't know the ins and outs of how, but I don't care either. My aunt has told me that my mother seems truly broken now. They have her under constant watch, and she wants to go to the heaven. She stops crying for me, but spends a lot of time in Syria to know about because she was convinced I would come for her. Then, of all people, my dad visited her. Not too long ago, he packed up his trailer and drove all the way back to her home state. My mother was not happy to see him. I don't know what was said between them, but I heard he savaged her. It doesn't take much to make her cry. Whatever he did was far worse. I think he held those words in for 5 years, but whatever he said had a strong enough impact that she worried it went catatonic. My aunt told me that my mother had become more cooperative after that, and had stopped crying that Prince Charming hadn't come for her. My dad didn't stick around. He spent another 2 weeks catching up with everyone and headed over to New Mexico. He had a cousin over there and says he'll feel like being in the desert for a while because the salty air at the coast was eating away at his truck and trailer. He also hates seafood, and that's where he is now. One of my younger cousins on my mother's side, who has a pregnant girlfriend, are moving into my mother's house and will keep up with the maintenance, bills, and taxes for an exchange for not needing to pay rent. And then they may be able to stay there as long as my mother is locked up, or until she passes away. Either way, I don't want to live there, even if the house when she passes. I just want nothing to do with her. I'm happy my mother won't be coming to look for me, but at the same time, I'm feeling completely indifferent to the fact that she's been locked up in a padded cell. She had lost any feelings of care I had for her in a long time ago, and I had been beating the stuff out of her myself, and she had come after me again. Looks like I may never need to do that, though. If she ever gets out there, I'll be applying for another restraining order right away. But I and my aunt are fairly confident she'll be locked up for a long time, and maybe the rest of her life, I hope. Well, P, I'm glad you're out of that situation, but geez, putting on lots of makeup and dressing like a Disney princess, now that's a new one to me. My mother pinned me down because I forgot to let the dog out. My mother and I were never the closest. We always fought with each other, and the littlest things would start an argument. This one time, I forgot to let the dog out to pee, and she got mad at me for even doing so, even though I always remember. I just forgot this one time. She had completely blew up on me and started yelling at me. Then she started telling me how I do everything wrong, like she usually tells me. I got upset because of all the things she chose to get mad at me over. This is what she got mad at me for. I was mad at her because it was one simple mistake, and I didn't want to talk to her. I knew she would come to me and make me apologize for what I did, even though I already did it, and it wasn't a big mistake. I told her I would talk to her until I'm ready. Fast forward to that night, I was chilling in my room, on my bed, listening to some music. All of a sudden, my mom barges into my room. She stomps right to my bed, yanks the cover up, and pins me down onto my bed. It went all so fast at the moment, but I remember being really scared. She was shoving her face into mine and demanding me to talk to her. Her arms were on my wrists, her legs on top of mine so I wouldn't struggle, and every time I was about to get free, she would throw me back onto my bed and just kept screaming at me in my face. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out. We'd always fought, but she never took it to the extreme. I eventually managed to break free, and in the moment of panic, I just ran to the basement. My sister heard all the noise and came down before my mom got to me. I was so scared that I just ran into my sister's arms and didn't let go. My sister was oblivious to what just happened. Then my mom came downstairs and I was freaking out. She told me to calm down and I had to get over myself. As she did not lay her whole body on top of mine. Then she stormed off and just went to bed. The next day I was silent. She did apologize, but I don't think that was over. I think it was sincere. She then went on how about she didn't pin me down and how I was being overreacting and making a big deal about it. He tells me whenever I bring it up and I need to let it go, and then starts crying in front of me like she was the victim. I don't really know how I should react to what happened right now. Edit. To clarify, I am safe. This was a while ago, but I did need to tell the story because nobody really knows. I thought I was overreacting to what she did to me because it was only at the time she had done something like this. I hope our relationship can improve, and it has gotten better a bit since this, but I still think about this moment. Well, P, I'm glad you're safe, but the real thing is that your mother isn't really a victim. She doesn't just get to just topple on top of you and scream at you for like I don't know how long she did, and then say that she claims that she's the victim. That's some like manipulation tactics right there, I think. Entitled mother throws a tantrum over trash bags. First off, to understand the situation, I live together with my roommate and our 3 cats. Our work regarding the cats is equally split. I feed the cats and I do everything that has to do with them, except the litter box. I'm still recovering from different trauma and problems, and I immediately start to cry and throw up once I try to clean it. My roommate for that can't smell the wet food for them, so it works out pretty well. So we have me and our neighbor EM. We live in a new flat since around more than a year ago, and she moved in with her 3 kids about 2 months after. We got to know each other because every time I see a neighbor needing help, I always ask if I can do something for them. Stuff like, groceries too heavy? Let me lend you a hand. Oh, your kinder wagon is too heavy to get you off the floor. I'll help you get it and up. Help you get it up. And exactly like that, we got to know each other. For a while, I even considered her to be my friend. I did a lot of stuff for her for free, like free babysitting for her, and we watched our cats every time she was in the holidays. To finally get to the point, my roommate was not home for around 5 days, and I was sick with high fever. So he asked her if she could do the litter box once a day until he gets back. But I definitely wasn't able to keep up with it. It wasn't a problem, and the first 2 days went quite well. I was still asleep when she did it. Day 3 out of 5 arrives, and I actually was up and managed to get off the couch, because my bed was now not nice anymore thanks to all the sweating. She just comes in and stuff is fine. She brought one of her kids with her and we talked shortly. I joked around with the kid and everything was fine until I saw that she went and took one of her biggest trash bags to make the litter box instead of the small ones, and we actually have for that. Following conversation came. Me. Oh hey, those are the wrong trash bags. Can you please use the ones laying around the small counter over there? EM. Why should I do that? I used them the last days too. She already got loud at that. Me. Yeah, I didn't see the last days since I mostly only slept because I was sick. At this point, she cut me off already. EM. Well, you do not look too sick. And she went on and opened the big trash bag. Me. Standing up wobbly at that point. Yeah. EM. Yeah. EM. Yeah. I'm not gonna use those. I have this one already open. To be honest, the rest of the conversation is kind of fuzzy, so my fever went up again. But all I know is that she ended screaming at each other. Now, she keeps telling her kids what a disgusting of a person I am, and she keeps posting on passive-aggressive quotes directed at me everywhere, where she thinks I could maybe see it. I won't lie, this is still annoying to me so much I could cry. I like their kids and go along with them, but to be honest, by what I know now, I may only feel bad for them growing up with a mother that can't even talk in a normal volume. Look, OP, if the entitled parent is throwing a tantrum over your trash bags, that's her problem. It's your trash bags in your house, so she can either deal with it or leave it. Entitled uncle wants to close the free photo shoot for sister's baby shower. I am still an amateur photographer that photographes events for a couple $100. Since I am still a student, one of my best friends suggested a person who was looking for a photographer for his sister's baby shower in Austin, Texas, which is like 4.5 hours away. I contacted this guy, let's call him Jack, asking if he was still looking for a photographer. He said yes and was asking me for a quote. I said I usually charge $100 an hour for a 20 to 25 pics hour with edits and 50 photos printed album, but since it's a 6-hour event with several dance performances, skits, and games, and 9-hour drive to and from, plus accommodation since it will be pretty late to drive back, and the fact that he needs a videographer along with me as a photographer, as he doesn't want me to go back and forth, that means a total of 2 people have to share the cost they pay us. I asked $150 an hour, which will be a total of $900 for all the above mentioned things, including the editing hours. He asked me if I was a professional photographer. I told him not exactly, but I have been doing this for 6+ years, and I'm pretty good at editing pictures. I sent him my portfolio of both raw and edited pictures, which take a minimum of 2 hours per 10 pictures, since I'm not that super fluent at Photoshop. Jack said he will call me back within a few hours and hung up. Cut to a few hours later, Jack called me and said he really loves my portfolio, but he can't pay more than $500. And that even $500 is too much, as photography is easy and anyone with a smartphone can be a good photographer. I clarified saying that I will be taking pictures with my camera and not a smartphone, and what I'm asking is not too much considering he is getting 2 people for 6 hours for the price of 1, not to mention for the other factors included. At this point, Jack started arguing that he is doing me a favor by even considering $500, since this will bring me exposure and I am not even a professional photographer. I told him if it were a local event, I'd love to do it for $75 an hour. He said it is local since within the same state lines it's just a mere 4-hour drive. He also said there are professional photographers charging only $200 for a total 6-hour event. I told him to give me some time to see if I could reduce the price and by cutting any cost. I tried to negotiate with him, told him I would do it for $500 as I am in college and I really need some extra money. He refused and said I should understand that he's trying to gift his sister with the eternal memories, and I should do it for free as I didn't take out the offer before. 20 minutes have passed, by the way. When I told him I can't do it, he called me a jerk and said my pictures weren't even that good. Cut to 2 days later, he called me again and stated that he's willing to pay me $200 for a 6-hour event, as that's what professionals charge in the city of Austin. I told him no because my friend wants to cancel and he's not going to get paid enough for a video and waste an entire weekend for absolutely no money. He got mad and called me names and hung up the phone and blocked me. What I'm really confused about this guy is that he said that there are photographers in his area that are willing to do it for $200 for a 6-hour event. And yet you're still arguing with OP who's saying he could do it for like $900? So why are you still arguing with them when you can just go to the other people in your area for $200? It's not that smart. My entitled and a psychotic father and his even more deranged wife demand to know where I live now. I moved out from home. As the title suggests, my mom and dad are divorced since I was 4 and my sister was 6, and we are now 18 and 20 now. It was simply the way life was. Split Christmas and alternating weekends. Over time, me and to my lesser extent my sister wanted to spend less and less time with our dad and his new girlfriend, the woman my father had a year-long affair with when I was 3 that ultimately led to the divorce. It got to the point that the little time we would spend with our dad, I hated more and more. We would often fight and I would be ended by my dad and his girlfriend ganging up on me and saying it's 2 against 1, you lose. Bear in mind I was 7 and 10 and when this was a thing. When I was around 10, I may have been as old as 11. I refused to go. I simply would not leave the house to go to my dad. So I remained and my sister, as old as 13, went still. Apparently, he told my mom via text that she had raised a nasty little fat jerk of a kid. The jerk part was because of recent autism diagnosis that my dad had decided was entirely mine and my mom's fault. Fast forward about 2 years later, and we are now at the point where me and my sister are no longer spending the night at my dad's, since I refused to go consistently and freak out my sister by telling everyone I was going to take my pocket money and buying a train ticket home. This is all in the confines of London, so trains are everywhere 24/7, pretty much, but also not the safest at night, especially for a 12-year-old kid alone. So my mom fought with my dad over this, and we never spent the nights at his place ever again. At the genuine risk that I would run away my dad decided refused to acknowledge, but he would agreeingly, following some comments targeting at me over text since now I had a phone. He could say them to me personally once again, call me fat, short, ugly, and a jerk, among other things such as infantile. I was 12, and a genuine disappointment of a child. By this point, I wanted not to go to my dad's at all, and I would not have were if it was not mandated by the divorce agreements that my dad would not yield any further until I personally decided at 14, about 18 months from this point. There are plenty more stories and behaviors regarding my dad and his new wife that aren't relevant to this, but I'm happy to talk about more depending on how this interest gets. But the situation reference in the title is regarding my move to university accommodation for my home with my mother. For some extra context, I had secretly spoken to my father's side of the family whatsoever apart from when I was required to visit, and my dad's right-wing extremist parents would visit too much as a wonderful surprise. I have not visited since 2017, and contact engaged by me and my have been almost nothing. Entirely my choice to not visit, but I did have to maintain some kind of communication with them until I was 18 and he could no longer pay any money to my mom to fund me. Once I'm 18 and I was lights out for the relationship. My dad and stepmom blocked on everything and numbers deleted. 6 months later, my dad was made aware accidentally by my sister that I was moving away, but I did not allow her to say where, and all possible avenues of communication have been exhausted by him, including hijacking my chess.com account from years ago, which remembered the login for and added himself as a friend onto my account to message you tried to find out where I live, including hanging around my mom's house and most recently harassing my sister too, messaging and turning up to her own university hall to get it out of her. She still reluctantly refused. He has since threatened members of my mom's extended family on Facebook to find out where I am, claiming he has the right to know where I am, and I feel so guilty and responsible. I want nothing more to be free of the pair of them. The stepmother is worse by a large margin. My sister has elected to keep up with a relationship with the pair of them, and that's her choice. She's always the favorite of theirs, or at least not called slurs by them. I can't help but feel sometimes I'm in the wrong for refusing to make amends and spend the time with them. He believes he has the right to. OP, don't feel sorry for yourself. If your dad went to another woman for a year, which led to your divorce, and now is calling you slurs, I don't think he wants to mend your relationship with you. I'm pretty sure he just wants you around so he can just use you as a verbal punching bag. Well guys, I think that's the end for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and also turn on notifications when you can. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.